1856. Among a party of 900 Mormons who recently left comfortable homes in England to surrender to the sway of Brigham Young and his hopeful associates, came two girls whose transfer to the Utah land of abominations has very much the character of a kidnapping. The story of their flight, as related in the English papers, is as follows. Their father was a man in middle life, well-to-do and industrious. His labors had placed his family, consisting of a wife and several children, in a state of decent competence and happiness. Satan came among them in the guise of a Mormon emissary and beguiled the eldest son, who made a pilgrimage to the land of rogues. True to their instinct, the crafty elders of Salt Lake made Mormonism so delightful to the neophyte and advanced him so very rapidly in their fraternity that he returned to England as a preacher of the delusion. The father, whose employment took him away from his family for a period of a week at a time, returned to the house one Saturday from a business excursion to find it deserted. His whole family had disappeared with whatever portables they could lay their hands upon, and his wife had stolen his money to no inconsiderable amount, all that she could collect or pilfer. He traced the fugitives to Liverpool and reached that place to discover that they had embarked, under the persuasions of his Mormon son, in an immigrant ship, the Enoch Train. The distracted father chartered a steam tug and, taking with him a police officer, overtook the vessel. After an infinite deal of persuasion, aided by the master of the ship and opposed by the Mormon leaders, he succeeded in inducing his wife to go back with him. He also, as a matter of great favor, obtained the surrender of his infant children. But his two eldest daughters refused to return with their parents, and the heartbroken father went without them. Their fate, going thus unprotected to Utah, may well cause a shudder. A community, thus replenished, is maturing measures to apply for admission as one of the states of this confederacy. We were never among those who calculated the value of the Union or who dreamed that the possibility of its being sundered was among contingencies to be considered in any case. But the possibility that our fathers may have fought to establish a shield for a community of adulterers and bigamists and their progeny makes us pause. That all which we hold sacred in religion or virtuous in social and family relations may be trampled underfoot by a state represented on equal terms with those founded by Penn and the Pilgrims, by Oglethorpe and the Cavaliers, that the Old Dominion and the land of the Puritans may be allied with a fraternity of licentious and debauched rogues. These possibilities, should they become facts, will leave no value to the Union for anybody to calculate. Nothing has cast so great a doubt over the future of this country as the Mormon plague spot. And if the state of Utah is to be admitted into our constellation, the sign will lose its present proud significance and stand, as stars sometimes do, in equivoque, the representatives of something too foul to be spoken or written. And all this evil, if it be consummated, will be fairly chargeable upon the absurdity of squatter sovereignty, a demagogue's figment to serve a party purpose, carried to its legitimate deductions by knaves operating through the instrumentality of zealots, fanatics, fools, and lechers. We have no patience with the Mormons, and as little with temporizers who leave the evil to increase until at last literal and bloody war may be forced upon us to crush what common sense and a just idea of the power of the general government might have averted. The contact with the Mormons of such settlers of the West as have just ideas of purity and decency will be terrible whenever the tide of immigration reaches them. And if the descendants of the wretches now wallowing in Mormonism, modern vermin perpetuating their kind in the disgusting ratio of other loathsome creatures, if we say these children of such fraternity do not form a pariah race in our country, it will be because this bad leaven taints the whole moral mass. Extremes meet. We have enjoyed a high order of social virtue in this Republican country because no corrupt royalty and nobility have made illegitimacy tolerable, and recommended the bend sinister as a badge of honor, provided that the blood, no matter by what questionable vein it descends, be honorable. But if squatter sovereignty and liberty deteriorating into licentiousness produce the same results, we have only Fitz-Youngs and Fitz-Mormons for Fitz-Jameses and Fitz-Clarences, and certainly have not gained much by the exchange.
Apparently that editor disliked Mormons almost as much as he disliked the Irish. Pacific Post and Mormonism, Western Standard, 15 November 1856. The Pacific last week, in the Pathfinder and Post of the 12th instant, contained an article on Mormonism extracted from the Philadelphia American, which exceeds in bitterness, vituperation, and filthy epithets anything we have seen upon the subject for a long time, and which exhibits the deep corruption of the heart and brain of the writer. The language it contains would be much more becoming frequenters of the 5 Points in New York or Billingsgate in London than the mouth of an American editor. And we are surprised to see any paper in the state disgrace its columns by its insertion. We can only account for its appearance on the supposition that some of the California editorial fraternity, being destitute of the necessary, amount of brains to concoct stories about the Mormons, have been compelled to have recourse to foreign aid, and in order to gratify their malicious propensities towards us. We do not profess to be so expert in the use of slang phrases and low vulgarisms as the editor of the American, nor do we wish to degrade ourselves to his level by adopting his course, for says the wise man, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou be like unto him. There is one thing, however, which we would remind gentlemen of, and that is that selecting all the scurrilous and abusive words from a dictionary and arranging them in consecutive order, though it may exhibit a certain degree of smartness, is not argument. And though it may pander to and please the passions of the vulgar, unthinking crowd, it will not only fail to convince, but will disgust every sensible and reflecting man and woman. There is not an objection raised in the article to which we allude, but what could be easily and satisfactorily answered. We do not consider it worthy of reply, for it carries its own reputation on its face, and the only reason we notice it is because it shows the mean, cowardly, underhanded course which certain editors in this city are determined to pursue towards us and our principles, and because it is also a tolerably correct criterion of their taste. Crows flock to carrion, but its very scent is sufficient to drive away birds of cleaner tastes and purer instincts. Why is it, gentlemen, that you are compelled to resort to such means to sustain your position? We are here to debate with you the principles of Mormonism on their own merits, and to answer your objections against them if you have any. We invite discussion. We court inquiry. Bring forth your strong arguments. Show us our errors. Prove Mormonism to be false, either from the Bible or nature. We are willing to meet you on these grounds. But no. Instead of pursuing this manly, consistent, straightforward course, you sneak away behind the invincible barrier of some absurd story that's been hatched up by some charitable, disinterested man as the editor of the American from 3,000 to 10,000 miles away, and about which neither of us know as much as a monkey does of algebra. And then you valiantly stick your heads out of your hiding places and call upon us to refute these ridiculous offshoots of a diseased brain, when you well know that it's impossible for us to obtain the necessary proof to do so. Shame on such a contemptible subterfuge. We ask again, why is it that you pursue such a course? We are compelled to conclude that it's either because you have learned by past experience that reason is not a weapon that can be used against Mormonism, that no sound argument can be brought to bear against it, or else that you really do not know enough to conduct an argument on the subject. If the latter is the case, we advise you not to open your mouths again until you have something to say, but to remember the fable of the ass, who, when attired in the skin of a lion, passed very well for that noble animal until he attempted to imitate his roar, when his bray betrayed his true nature. As one of the first propagators of Mormonism on the Sandwich Islands, the term then generally used for Hawaii, it's hardly surprising that Canada responded forcefully when the California